We begin with the latest on the war between Israel and Hamas. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has made a renewed call for a ceasefire to allow more aid into Gaza. He spoke during a visit to the Rafah border crossing.
It's time to truly flood Gaza with life-saving aid. The choice is clear, either surge or starvation. Let's choose the side of help, the side of hope, and the right side of history.
This comes as some hospitals are reporting that children are dying of malnutrition and dehydration. Earlier, I spoke to UNICEF's executive director. She says there are many challenges getting aid into the region. Catherine Russell, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks, Rosemary.
How would you describe what children are facing in Gaza right now?
You know, it's interesting because I talk about this so much, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing adjectives to describe just how horrific the situation is for children. Essentially, it's been months now of them living under bombardments. So many of them have moved from one part of the country to the other. And now, of course, we hear stories about them, some children starving to death, facing severe malnutrition, not having clean water, not having access to toilets. I mean, it's really so horrific. And sometimes, as I said, it's hard to even find words to describe it because it keeps getting worse and worse. And as much as we say it, it feels like the world's not listening.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So give us a sense then of how much aid UNICEF is able to get into Gaza right now, and the challenges that your organization is facing on that front.
Yeah, the challenge is this. We have plenty of aid. And I would say this, UNICEF and the other agencies, the UN agencies and different organizations that do this kind of work around the world, there are lots and lots of people who are trying to move aid into there. Yeah. UNICEF has been able to move trucks in for sure. And for us, most of what we're focused on is a couple things. One, we do a lot of work on getting medical supplies in there. Two, we get a lot of feeding for children, babies in there, because what happens is even children, little children, babies who are ill, they can't eat regular food. So even if the World Food Program or others can get it in, children need what we call therapeutic feeding, which is essentially, it's something like a peanut paste. We call it plumpy nut. And it's a way to get nutrients into them so that we can keep them from starving to death. We've in the past moved a lot of water in. Now we're trying to move more pieces of water systems in. So all of that needs to come in. And in addition to that, basic things for babies like diapers, warm clothes, all of that is really critical to us getting in for the children. And we're able to move trucks in, but it's such a slow rate. I mean, we're looking now at, overall maybe 100 trucks a day maybe can get in, and that's on a good day. And before this crisis happened, there were 500 trucks a day going into Gaza. A lot of that was stuff from the private sector, but still it was food, it was nutrition, it was water, and all the things that people basically need to survive, and now they're not getting it.
And where is the problem? If everyone understands that more needs to get in and that people are dying and children are dying, where is the problem in getting it through?
Yeah, the problem is there are a lot of bureaucratic blockages, right? And it's really hard to imagine how complicated this has become. But essentially, what happens is we try to move some products in, and they'll say, well, if that can be used for what they call dual use products, which means that things you could use for civil reasons or for military reasons. But that would include sometimes things like little scissors that we put into a medical kit, and they say that could be used as a weapon. We don't really agree with that, of course, but that's the kind of thing that goes on. We're having trouble now getting portable toilets in. We're not allowed to do that for a reason that we can't begin to understand. So we're trying to, get local folks to build toilets, which is very challenging given the circumstances. Sure. We've had trouble getting pipes in. For a long time, I think it took us 4 months to get plastic pipes that cannot be used or not used typically for weapons, but still we had trouble getting in. And so it's like bureaucratic challenges that make it very difficult for us. There are limited access points to get products into Gaza. Right now, we have essentially two places where we can move products in, but we need many, many more options than that, and we just don't have them.
What about the options of airdropping? I know that there are some challenges with that too. The maritime corridor that has opened from Cyprus. How is that helping your efforts from that front?
Yeah, our view about those is, what we've been asking for is let's flood the zone with as much as we can, getting in from any possible area. The reality is, taking the airdrops as an example, those are quite inefficient and very expensive. So it's not the best way to move things in. The maritime option right now, it's like a drop in the bucket, honestly, in terms of what we need to get in. Once there is a real pier built, that might get better, but we think that's at least weeks off, if not more than that. So really the best way, the most efficient way, the fastest way to get supplies to people who desperately need them is to do it by road. And unfortunately, we just cannot get the access that we need to move in the supplies to keep people, children from our perspective in particular, from really suffering from severe malnutrition in a way that is really unconscionable.
What about the speed at which this has happened? Obviously, the October 7th attacks are what prompted this response from Israel, but it does seem to have escalated very quickly in terms of approaching famine and disaster for children in Gaza.
Yeah, it has happened fast. And I think, what we try to say is this is based on choices that are being made, right? There's a choice not to release the hostages. We disagree with that. We think the hostages should be released immediately. There are choices not to move things in more quickly and to let this problem get so out of control, which is what happened now. I mean, we went from a situation where 5.5 months ago, there was nobody who was suffering, near famine conditions in Gaza, right? This has happened quickly. And one of the big challenges for us is even if we can start to move things in quickly, it's still going to take us a lot of time to turn it around. And that is really something that the international community should be quite worried about, because we've already had reports of 20-odd children starving to death, dying from dehydration. I mean, honestly, Rosemary, what kind of world is that, right? That should never happen when we have the ability to stop it, when we have trucks waiting to go in there. We should not see this. It's really unacceptable.
Catherine Russell, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.